November 25th, 1177. The most powerful man on earth is running for his life. Saladin, the conqueror of the East, is fleeing into the desert night. Terrified, alone, his army is burning behind him. He wasn't defeated by a giant. He wasn't defeated by an army of thousands. He was broken by a 16-year-old boy. And a boy who had to be tied to his horse because he had no feeling in his hands. A boy whose body was rotting alive inside his own armor. His own court called him a corpse. His enemies called him a curse. But history remembers him by a different name. The Leper King. To understand how a dying teenager destroyed an empire, we have to look at the map. The year is 1174. The Kingdom of Jerusalem is a tiny island of gold, surrounded by a rising tide of enemies. When Prince Baldwin was just a child, he fell while playing. He didn't cry. He didn't even notice the blood. His tutor pinched his arm. Then he pricked it with a needle. Nothing. The silence in the room was deafening. The doctors confirmed the nightmare. In the Middle Ages, this was a death sentence. It meant isolation, banishment. But Baldwin, he refused to hide in the dark. While the vultures in his court waited for him to die so they could steal his crown, Baldwin was sharpening his mind. He knew his time was short. He knew every day could be his last. If he couldn't hold a sword, he would tie it to his hand. If he couldn't hold the reins, he would steer his warhorse with his knees, while other kings slept on silk. The Leper King was being wrapped in bandages and steel, preparing for the end of the world. He saw the monster in the mirror. But when the gates of Jerusalem opened, he rode out as a king. Saladin didn't respect him. Why would he? He saw a sick child playing soldier. He had no idea that he was about to walk into the mouth of a wolf. Saladin brought the storm. 26,000 men. An extermination force designed to wipe the Christians off the map. He was so confident that he made a fatal mistake. He let his army spread out, raiding and burning villages, moving slowly. He thought there was no one to stop him. But in Jerusalem, Baldwin didn't wait for a siege. He called the Knights Templar. He was in agonizing pain. Every movement tore his skin, but he mounted his horse anyway. 500 knights against 26,000. It wasn't a battle plan. It was a suicide mission. And Baldwin led the way straight into the blinding sun. they met at Montgisard. When the Crusaders saw the ocean of enemies in front of them, panic set in. They were outnumbered 50-1. Then, the king did something that changed history. He fell from his horse. He crawled through the sand to the true cross, and he wept. He didn't pray for his life. He knew that was already gone. He prayed for his people. When he stood up, the weak boy was gone. The fear in his men vanished, replaced by cold, holy fury. They didn't wait. They charged. Like a thunderbolt, the heavy cavalry smashed into Saladin's disorganized lines. At the center of the chaos was the Leper King, fighting like a demon, his bandages unraveling in the wind. Saladin watched in horror as his elite guard was slaughtered. The sick child was destroying his legacy. For the first time in his life, the great conqueror turned his back and ran against all odds, against nature itself. The Leper King had won. He returned a hero. But victory has a price. The exertion of the battle accelerated his disease. The bacteria in his blood multiplied. He went blind. He lost the use of his hands and feet. To hide the horror of his decaying face, he began to wear a mask of polished silver. Yet, he refused to quit. When Saladin returned years later, Baldwin couldn't ride. So he had himself carried to the battlefield on a litter. Imagine the terror of Saladin's troops, seeing that bed on the hill.
Do you see it? The undying king. He has returned. Allah protect us.
Even Saladin bowed his head in respect. He sent fruit and snow to the dying king. He knew he was fighting a man of immense spirit. Baldwin died in 1185. He was only 24 years old. He didn't die on the battlefield. He died in bed, finally defeated by the invisible enemy he had fought all his life. Without his iron will, the kingdom crumbled. 2 years later, Jerusalem fell to Saladin, but history has never forgotten him. In a world obsessed with muscles and physical perfection, Baldwin IV proved that true power doesn't come from the body. It comes from the soul. He was a man who couldn't feel the sword in his hand, yet he struck the heaviest blow of the century. They called him a monster, but to his people, he was the savior. If you enjoyed this story, you must hear about the man who eventually destroyed the Templars. Click here to watch that next. And don't forget to subscribe to Arcana of Aevi for more hidden history.